Great pleasure right now to welcome back to the program a good friend of the show. He's an Emmy Award-winning TV host. He's a writer, he's a comedian, and has added motivational speaker and author to his resume. And his latest book is called Are You Relevant? And it's a great pleasure to welcome back Ross Shafer to the show today. How are you, Ross?
I'm good, Doug. I hope this is Doug Miles. I hope it's not Khloe Kardashian.
How can you explain that, just to get off the topic for a minute? People like that getting all this notoriety. Can you explain that, Ross?
I guess if you can find an audience somewhere and then drag them to the airwaves in some way, then you get a show. I don't understand it.
You pounded the sand for a long time doing local TV and radio, and people like that can get a show right away. It is a little discouraging.
They get a show, they get a band, they get a producer and an associate, and a lot of money. That's how dumb I am.
Well, they're only relevant for a short time.
That's exactly what it is. Good point. Nice segue.
You like that? Like Johnny Carson said, the Prince of Blends. Well, I was very fascinated by the book. I know we've had you on a couple of times before, and obviously the folks out there know you from your work on television, but maybe some don't know that you branched out into the business world and corporate motivational speaking, and you've had several successful books. The last one, I think, was Who Moved My Cheese. We talked to you about that, but this is really one of those books, I think, right now, with people going through job changes, whether voluntarily or not. They got to find how they're relevant, aren't they?
That's the point. In the last year and a half, I did a lot of research, and I've done a lot of speaking to Fortune 500 companies about some of our other books. We focus on customer service and customer empathy because it's so tandem to what you and I have learned how to do, which is to attract an audience. As long as human beings are buying stuff, then human behavior becomes real fascinating to me. And the relevant book was, why are some organizations and companies succeeding when we're in this so-called recession? What do they do differently that the ones who make the headlines and go into bankruptcy don't do? And so that's what this is about. What are those best practices, and what will automatically cause people to just go away and then have nobody care? We've seen so many of those. Circuit City is one. Linens and things. Blockbuster, who didn't believe that Netflix was a real company. Mm-hmm. They're just not paying attention to how the culture shifts.
As we were talking about before we went on the air, talking about a man who's doing all those Thomas Paine videos on YouTube. YouTube has added a whole new media for people that maybe out of that they'll get a television show, but maybe you don't even need that anymore. You bypass the traditional media to get noticed nowadays, don't you?
Yeah, you're right. And what's interesting, when you mentioned that he had 25 million hits, that's a social phenomenon. There are many, many thousands of people who want to get famous on YouTube, but if it doesn't tap into the public consciousness, it's just another video. He happened to hit a nerve, and that nerve just traveled virally through friends who said, "You've got to see this guy. You've got to look what he's saying. Look what he's doing." That's how that whole viral marketing notion works. Is that you and I know you can't have a hit record. You can't decide you're going to have a hit record or a best-selling book. The public always decides that, and when the public decides that, that means you're relevant. You can't be too smart for human behavior and try to outguess them. We have to follow their lead.
You talk about it in the book, and you interview a lot of the people that are successful in business. I like that format because you really get the voice of the people that have done the right thing. But you talk about marketing and how that's changed over the last 5 to 10 years. Businesses should look outside the normal advertising. You have to look ahead, don't you, what the technology is?
Yeah, you do have to look ahead. You have to pay attention to that. If we have 40 million workers in the United States now work out of their home using broadband connections, what happens to those people? What happens if they become isolated? They don't have a workforce around them. They don't have coworkers around them. But we're still pack animals as human beings. So where do you go? Social networking filled that void. You could have MySpace and Facebook and Twitter, and that allowed you to have a virtual community where you would be isolated normally. People have asked, well, should I have a brick-and-mortar store? Should I have an internet presence? And the answer to that is yes, because you can't predict where and how people will buy. The common denominator amongst them all is that they have humility. Arrogance is not relevant. It doesn't matter what you think your 6-month, 1-year, 2-year, 5-year plan is, because tomorrow, literally tomorrow, operation methods could change. Don't pay attention to good ideas from every level in the organization. You can die. I've got 2 great examples that I'll tell you quickly if we have time.
Sure.
That is that when I interviewed Bruce Nordstrom of the famed Nordstrom department store, they have remained relevant. They've grown under Bruce's tutelage from 20 million to under 2 billion, and then he turned it over to his children. But I said, you guys must have a very nice family, because you just treat people so well. And he said, no, we really don't have that nice of family. we just found out that people would be nice to us, spend more money if we allowed refunds. Truth is, what drove that is we were greedy, and we found out that when we loved people, they gave us more money. The other thing he said, so we don't train anybody. We don't have a training program that would be better than what parents can do for their children. So we rely on the parents. And we love to get people from the Midwest who grew up with responsibilities and or chores, because they're much easier to get to do hard work. Innovation is the other thing that all of these organizations do to stay relevant. One of the greatest innovations that I heard just 2 months ago, that I unfortunately did not get into the book, was a company called Larimar. They manage 50,000 apartment homes throughout the North American continent. Their problem is they estimate $5 million in pet deposits because people lie. And so I was at this conference, and they were saying, does anybody have any idea how we can solve this? And a guy's voice in the back from Oklahoma City raises his hand. He says, I think I know what it is. I get my pet deposit. What do you do? What is it you do? He says, I bought a dog